Alrighty, so it has come to my attention that Blood of Dawnwalker gameplay trailer has actually popped out. I was excited to check out their like cinematic trailer. Now let's see what the gameplay is all about. I do think the vampires are cool. I'm hoping that the gameplay is going to be cool. I am more interested in how well it looks. So let's see what we got going on here. I think the fire effects are incredible. That looks really good. The blood is like totally unrealistically like bright. It doesn't match the rest of the scene. I mean, you can clearly tell, right? All of this is looking fantastic. Nothing sticks out as being odd or unusual. What would I say to something like this? Typically, it's like the characters where I've noticed some weird stuff. So for instance, here's a great example of what I'm talking about. A lot of times I notice that there's no occlusion, which is light blocking something. You know, they're like, it's really weird how games do their lighting. So for example, like right here, you see this spot right there, that should be dark. Inside of the cuff, all of this should just be dark. It should just be a dark hole and it slowly feathers off. Even around here, it should be dark. And that's not there. It's not present. And it's like certain things light doesn't interact with. So like right here on her chin, there's no reason for that to be bright. It depends on where the light is coming from. If it's coming from over here, then this side can be lit, but the other side should be in darkness. Or much darker, but it looks like it's lit from underneath. Yes, it is lit from underneath because here's the shadow. So boom. So the light is coming from this direction. But the arm is not occluding the light. And that is always, so there should be like a fuzzy, like depending on how soft the light is, there should be a fuzzy dark spot there. And you can move the light and then you'll move that fuzzy patch, like say over here, like that. Or if the light's more further down, pointing up, and then this is largely, the shadow is out of the way. But you might see some like right here on the side. So, like, I think they do that so you can see the faces, but I think it's a disservice to the beauty of what your engine can achieve, if it can achieve that. Otherwise, I think it looks great. That with metal, they always do a really good job showing off the reflections of metal, and especially whenever you can put like these little scratches and stuff, imperfections, it really sells it. I would say for her, she is much more lit than the background. So whatever light is here, say if there's like a fire or something over here shooting light up, it's going to hit her at the same time as it's going to hit the background. Mostly because they're both like, it's physics. So if you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, let's say 16 feet or 20 feet, say it's like 20 feet from this point to the person, and there's only like 8 feet to the back of the wall. These two are closer together than these two are closer in relation to each other than from the key light, if that makes sense. These two are much more closer together than they are separate from the key. And so they will share similar levels. Now, the further back you go, the darker it's going to get. But my point is, she is hella brighter than physically possible. And so they've made some allowance for that to happen. This looks pretty accurate. You can see, obviously, you have a sunlight over here that's doing all of this work. And it's even casting some realistic shadows. They're sharp, which is good. And then over here, you have a bounce. So see how warm this is? This is a bounce from, I would say there's a wall. There's like another building, and that sunlight is hitting it and then bouncing back. And that's what's casting all of this this beautiful glow. So it's bounce and it looks realistic. That's fantastic. What is unrealistic, however, is the interior. You see how bright that interior is? You try going outside and then looking into a house and tell me if you can see the interior as well lit as this is. Yes, they do have windows all over, but it's still pretty hella bright. It wouldn't be that bright because in reality, these are small block windows, and they're even flagged. So the light from my direction, looking into this window, hardly any of, if I were a light shooting into that window, hardly any of it would make it into the building, because you have these little slats blocking the light, and you just have only a little bit of space in between for the light to actually pass through. And so they are pretty restrictive as far as light entering. And so you're not going to get the level that they have here. It would be hella dark. So they've done some cheating there to lift all of that up. It should just be pretty much dark. You would see through that window right there, which is simply shooting through the other side. I would love to see a game that takes more, makes it more realistic in exposure. And whenever you walk into a dark room, it's very dark, and then it has to brighten up, just like your eyes would work. I think that would be awesome. Limitations are fun. Oh, okay, so now we have an actual light. So this must be an actual cinematic with using the render engine in-game. I say that because you have what is a natural light source right here coming from something over here. It's also hitting him. And it's would also be hitting her. So there's something over there that's pushing, and it's doing all of that. Okay. And then they have something overhead, which is skipping off of his head. It's doing this, and it's also doing that work. So they have something overhead, probably a chandelier. Why not? It's warm. And then they have added something back here, which is big and soft. Is it soft? It's a hard light. And that's what's doing all of this work. And it's what's lifting all of him. And it's a much more redder kind of, it's a red color. And that's what's doing all of that work. And I'm sure it's hitting some part of this dude as well. Anyway, the reason why I think it's placed there for the cinematic is because it seems overtly lit for an environment. I think this is the main light that they've added to help to keep it from diving into black. And, you know, honestly, I would just let it fall off. Like as the game cinematographer, let that stuff fall off into darkness. Why? Why, Steven? Why? Because that's how it looked back in the day. They didn't have all these lights in place everywhere. So if you're a game developer, especially if you're doing like a period piece, listen to this. Try first to make it look like it would have given the technology that they had at the time. You don't have to add extra stuff. So all of this pink that I've put here should just be shadow, not necessarily zero, like black, zero level, but it should be one source coming from one side, and then some candlelight, and then let the rest of it fall off. It's going to look beautiful. It will look gorgeous because it's contrast, and contrast looks fantastic. But it's too flat here, meaning it's too evenly exposed from one side to the other. The key and fill are basically the same. This looks fantastic. And I particularly appreciate the metal texture on his scale armor. Fantastic. Like I said, they're doing the metal really well. Like the metal is just playing well with however they're lighting this. Oh my God, that's beautiful. That looks real. Not that I've ever seen vampire eyes, but it looks like it's reacting realistically to... It just looks like a realistic reaction. The way that, like, it's operating off of some kind of in-universe rules. And it's not like they just made the eye glow. Like, if it looks this way, it gets a little darker. You can see up here, it's at the top half, it gets a little darker. And then right here, when we're looking directly down the eye, it's a lot brighter. So that's cool. That goes a long way. Something that I see that I hit on before, which is the occlusion thing. And look at his mouth. That should be dark. There's not a lot of light sources around here in this scene. I mean, you have the fire, which is kicking off the nose and doing some of this stuff. That's not the fire. There's something else above him that's doing this. But that's kind of it. And then the rest of it, for some reason, they've added... they've added something up here and you can see the shadow that it's making on the nose. And that would be lifting all of this. But that's unnatural. There's no source there. You do want to see the face. So I can understand that. But what I don't appreciate is this part right here. You see the mouth and how it's all lit up as if the lips don't exist, as if the light is passing through the lips and then hitting the tongue. And that should be, let's render it for reals. That should just be a dark hole. You shouldn't even see much of the front teeth, yes. Bottom teeth generally are going to be covered by the lips. It would realistically look something more like that. Occlusion. That stuff like that is what pulls me out of games. But the eyes looked incredible. And then here, his mouth looks so much better. Like you do have some occlusion. Look how dark that is. That's so much better. Like, what's the difference? Like, whatever the light is, it's coming in here and it's casting the shadow. And then you have some shadow over there. So the only thing that's actually getting hit is his tongue and then the teeth. This is looking great. This is actually looking really good. You can even see the light sources in the eyes, the glints. It's beautiful. What you don't get is how the nose is blocking off some of those light sources. So you'll notice, especially in the breakdowns that I've done with actual like video cinematography, if you have two sources just like this, where you have a glint on, like say there's a source over here, and then you have another glint which is going to be like around just above camera shooting in. So you have a source off to the right shooting in, then you have a source just right next to camera shooting in. The right eye will see it. The left eye for us is going to see this one, but then the other one is going to disappear because the nose is blocking it. So the nose is actually cutting that off in the reflection, because this is basically a fisheye lens. It would have blocked it off, or at least part of the light. It would have blocked off part of that secondary light. And it looks like they didn't do that here. You don't even see anything. You don't even see like a shape, which would be what this nose is. That's basically that shape right there, stretched and wrapped around the eyeball. And that would play into occlusion, I think, but definitely reflections. And it's not rendered here. Very beautiful. I don't know what they did to do. Oh, okay. Yeah, I see what they did. So you can get this with, this is like a frost effect. A frost effect is, so frost, the best way I can describe it, here, I'll make a little render. Frost versus diffusion. Diffusion is a bunch of little dots, little white dots, and it just is impregnated into the material, and it will fill from corner to corner evenly if you have a light source behind it. So if you have like this light source behind it, it will fill the frame evenly. The heavier diffusion, the more evenly it fills and eliminates that source. The lighter diffusion, you will still see the source, but it still diffuses from corner to corner. With frost, you have your source, but what the diffusion does is it will diffuse around it, and then the corners will be left dark. The corners will be left unaffected. So mechanically, the light will shoot in and then refract in a different direction. Shoot in and refract in a different direction. Shoot in and refract. And that's a frost. Whereas diffusion, the light hits something and then it is re-emitted and then spits off in another direction. It's a chain reaction. So it hits this guy, and then it hits that one, and then it hits this one, then it comes out in some random direction, which is why diffusion itself is so much more taxing on your output. Anyway, all that is to say that this is acting like a frost because that's how frost acts. And look at this. You see this, and then you see it just like tapering off. It gets brighter and then dimmer, and then it just tapers off because it's acting like a frost, because that is what haze is. Haze acts like a frost. And so they have haze this whole area, but it is this section right here, and just around the light is what is affected. And then, of course, you can make it thicker in some areas, and then it really occludes. That's the thing, though. But they have occlusion here. And so, look, I can't see that mountain. I know that there's a mountain there, and then it disappears. I can't see it. There's something there blocking it. So why can't they do that with the characters and like parts of like their lips and their mouth and stuff? This shot looks beautiful. Looks, I would say, photorealistic. You even have some, look at that backlight glow. That is subsurface scattering. Whether or not it's actually rendered or if it's some type of math cheat equivalent, it's doing an excellent job. Beautiful. That goes a long way, because there's not much that's actually opaque. Like anything living typically has some translucency to it, especially the thinner it gets. I'll tell you what I do appreciate, though. Check this out. Look. Right there. Do you see something interesting? Does that feel realistic? I would say, yeah. It is specular highlights, these little dots. And you see these little dots? And those are dots that are a reflection of your hard source. That makes all the difference in the world. There's more up here, and there's some right there on the nose. There's some right here. It shows the pitting of the nose, and especially right there, where there's like a curve. Inside that curve, because it makes it, there's an angle at which it reflects the incoming light, and that's how come you get that line with all these little glints. That's specular highlights. Beautiful. And this is what I was talking about with the eye not reflecting the source. However, you can see a bright source right here, and that same source is still visible here. It's a lot dimmer though, but it is visible. Why it's dimmer and not just gone, I don't know. I would love to know. Oh, this looks badass. They're allowing the torches to be the mains. They're allowing the torches to actually play really well, and it's interacting with the fog, which is giving you great atmosphere. Something to note right here. It appears that this torch is casting a shadow, and then another shadow. I want to say it's from the torch itself. The torch itself is casting a shadow. Very interesting. You even have it right. Is that it? That's another shadow, his shadow, and then another one. I'm unsure why. And I'm sure there's some light. Maybe like the actual light source is right there. I don't get it. No, because it's glowing right here. I don't know. I would love for a game designer to explain this to me. I've always wanted to explore the world of the lighting in games, because I don't think the light sources always match the shape and size that you see in game. I think this is way too flat. Especially, obviously. He's got maybe it's just a front light on him. Maybe there's just a light right here and it's just going and blasting all over him. But this guy, the only shadow that you get is right there and right there. He's got something right above him, and even this is lifted. Oh, he's got some type of kicker on him. Interesting. I love kickers, and I appreciate them, and I'm not going to tell you not to do it. Kickers give you texture. You can see the blood vein, which is freaking awesome. Oh, yeah. It's giving him that very, very minimal edge. It's also edging this guy as well. Whatever it is, whatever the source is, that's great. I would say that like this guy himself is just entirely front lit from the top. And I don't... There might be a reason for it. Something else I would say is, do you see this? See how bright that shadow is? Just make it dark, man. Find a way. Like, I understand bounce back, and if it is a natural bounce back from the environment, then beautiful. But if you're trying to preserve the detail by artificially lifting the shadows, Don't do that. Like, look back here. This is nice and dark. This is nice and dark. This is generally, it's not that dark. I don't know. I want to know what's going on. Ooh. His foot, the darkness of the sole of his foot does not match the darkness of the shadows of the grass around him. Yeah. I would love to know why. Also, is he casting a shadow? I don't see one. He's not interacting with the environment. The fidelity of their armor, of just their character design, the texture in it. If you want to sell your lighting in games, it's not about like placing a bunch of lights here to try to make it look badass or cinematic. You can have great cinematic shots with very few lights, if not any, just the natural push of whatever's there. What will sell how realistic it is the material choice. You make those materials match what would actually happen in real life. It's not simply that this cloth is matte. This cloth is made up of cotton and some plastic in there as well. And those fibers reflect light differently than the cotton. And, whenever you scale this up to something that includes, say, leather or rust, like right here on his buckles. So you have like the base metal, and then it's rusted on top, and then it's pitted. And then you have like leather, and I don't know what this is. It's hard to tell if this is rusty or leathery. But then right here, you have up on his shoulder, those spikes they have these curves to them, and they will reflect light in different directions. And it shows here. This is great. The material choice is beautiful. Well, that's the shape, but the material is how specular it is, and blah, 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 blah. So right here, this is a great example of beautiful material choice. They've married two different materials together, at least two. You have the matte black, and then you have the shiny inlay. And oh, it's not so matte, is it? It's more like a satin, because you can see it reflecting right there. It's beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. It really sells. Oh, okay. That's creepy looking. And again, they are mastering the art of selling metal very well. I mean, like, geez, did they model every single ring? Wouldn't that be like super taxing on the computer? They figured out a way to show off that intricate texture where you have shadow behind it, and it actually drops to black, which is why I'm so impressed. Without taxing the game. This is incredible. Oh yeah. What type of steampunk horror is that? It's like a spleen, a mechanical spleen. Fantastic. I would still look forward to playing this. I would say that. I am not as excited about the lighting because it's not as there are situations where they've clearly cheated or haven't paid attention to the way light would react and just basically realism. Maybe they didn't think about it. Maybe there's a technical limitation. Maybe it's way too much work to block light in mouths, like it's like, oh, well, that would take like an extra like 2 weeks of coding to efficiently make that happen. I don't know. All right, that is it. I hope you learned something from this. I do breakdowns of commercials and cinematography in both good and bad examples. So if that interests you in being able to replicate or produce competently in a variety of scenarios, how to react to different scenarios with lighting and shooting, then check it out. Check out my channel. I got a bunch of videos that do this, and that's it. So stick around, check out other stuff, subscribe if you want to see more, and I will see you next time. Later. Bye.